Welcome to Cage Minds. It's fight week for Fightworld MMA 20 going down at the Fit NHB Martial Arts Complex, and representing Fit NHB on the card, joining us right now, Estevan. And man, you're gonna have to say your last name so I don't mess it up too bad.
The Cereceres.
Cereceres?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now how hard was that to get the ring announcer to say correctly for your debut?
You know what? Just growing up, I kind of got used to having it mix and match and just twisted. So I just roll with it, I just, whatever people think about it, I just go, or people call me CC as well. So however it goes,
Well, thank you for the time today, sir. It's a pleasure to get to talk to you. So let's start real quick at the beginning. I heard you've been training for about a year. How did you decide to get into combat sports?
Well, since high school, I used to wrestle. I did JV and then I did varsity as well. I just liked it. Once I got out of high school, I joined the Army. I was in for about 4 years. Throughout my 4 years, I started doing jiu-jitsu. So everything just kind of started, connecting like a puzzle. And once I got out the Army, I came back home. I just wanted to keep training. I wanted to keep, pursuing it and just see where it gets me. And throughout this whole year, I got my first fight, and just I fell in love with the people, the environment, just my coaches, everybody who's helped me out. I just love it.
As a young man there, wrestling middle school, high school, were you a fight fan at that time?
Yeah, I was a huge fight fan. It was I didn't know too much people, but it was like the big names like GSP and the Diaz brothers and Cain Velasquez. It was just like, growing up kind of in like that kind of era with the fighters.
Right. Who's your guy?
It probably have to be Max Holloway. Just just running through. He just gets down.
So is that, not trying to say exactly your style, but is his boxing some of the stuff that you'd like to one day be emulating?
Yeah, it's just his movement, his striking, like his chin, just keep getting hit, just keeps pushing forward, for like Mexican boxers that just keep going forward. So they're just tough.
Wrestling, grappling. The first time you're throwing leather, live action, it's in the cage in your amateur MMA debut. What was that experience like?
Oh man, it was a mix of emotions. It was nerve-wracking, anxious, excitement. But once I went in there and touched gloves, it all just like seemed to go away, and it was just me and him and my coach, just hearing them in my ear, kind of zoned everybody out and just went to work.
Now, as a fan, how many fights do you think you've watched before?
Man, I couldn't even tell you. Just couldn't. There's not a number specifically to say. Just been watching it. Boxing, MMA, wrestling, just everything. Just growing up.
How different was that moment than what you had always expected it to be? Or how was it not different than what you expected?
I think it was exactly what I expected, having like a rowdy crowd, having my people there, everybody who supported me, just like a mix of emotions, especially like, fighting through it. It was just a crazy experience overall. I loved it.
Did you seem in that moment to possibly harken back to some of those wrestling tournaments to get back into the mindset of the competitive environment?
Yeah, it was like exactly like a flashback, just going back into that environment, just, one person just rolling through it, being tired, just trying to scrap it out. It was badass. Yeah.
This journey right now, the last year now, fully getting into MMA, the kickboxing, the Muay Thai, the striking, how has that been just overall?
Overall, it's been a really big eye opener. A lot of experience, a lot of failing, a lot of fine tuning in certain things, certain material that my coaches teaches me, and all my teammates. They all take their time with me and correct me right away. And it's just something that it's progressive, you know, you got to learn to fail, just keep going forward and forward. So it's just a really good learning experience that I like to continue doing.
Wrestling, obviously, we all know, an incredible base to come into the sport with. And thank you for your service, obviously, having gone through the Army, that also instills just another level of discipline. So how much of a benefit is having all that experience while entering into an MMA fight?
I think it's just the mindset of, you know, not breaking. Like, you can't break, you know. When I was back in the Army and even now here, it's like, if you're gonna pass out, or if you're gonna, you know, you keep going until you pass out, or you can't no more. Like, you physically can't. You just gotta keep going, like keep pushing through the punches, roll through all the sweat, like just everything, just all the emotions. You just gotta keep going, no stopping, you know. And that's how I look at it as well with MMA. You just gotta just keep going with it.
Well, what is your motivation, your aspirations for the sport? Why are you going with it?
It's just something that I've always wanted to, you know, do in my lifetime. Just something I've always wanted to pursue and be like, hey, you know what? I was one of those guys. Like, I tried it. You know, I want to say I was able to do it, you know, in my lifetime, and especially seeing all my teammates and how far they reached their careers and all the knowledge they could give me. It's just an awesome thing to experience. And that's my motivation, you know, just being able to say like, hey, you know, I'm part of this group right here.
You get a stoppage in the last fight, bust your opponent open, his nose is gushing with the knee. I'm guessing you've set some pretty high expectations then for how you can improve in the second fight.
Yeah, exactly. Just a lot of conditioning that I saw everything that I did wrong, a lot of specific little details, you know. The devil's always in the details. So I've been working a lot of conditioning, especially my coaches, and a lot of drilling and just getting it, you know, as to the point where it's just like a muscle memory. So hopefully, you know, my fight or flight instincts, you know, come kick in, and I just go in there and do my work.
You've had experience wrestling, like we said, the Army. What's the nerves like before an MMA fight?
It's nothing like anything that I've experienced. Anything, you know, because wrestling is like you go in there and, you know, it's just a lot of grappling, a lot of drilling and sweating. But when you go into like that cage and they lock you in there and you just see your opponent and you're ready to scrap, that's all you're in there for. It's just to scrap, you know. It's just a whole different ballgame. I feel like, and it was crazy to me to experience that.
Now hit me with what it was like to have that feeling of victory.
It's like you're on top of the world, especially with all your people there, all your teammates there, you know, helping you, supporting you. You know, all those like days where you just didn't want to do it no more, or you go to work, you gotta go, you know, everything was worth it at that moment, just to be like, yeah, get that hand raised. It's badass. It's a crazy experience.
Saturday night, the Fit NHB Martial Arts Complex is the place to be for Fightworld MMA 20. Estevan, last message for the fans.
Just excited for everybody, you know, put on a show for all my people, all my family, all my coaches, let everybody know what I'm there for, and just be there for the support and love.